In this video, I'm going to show you how to magnetize the arm weapons on the new plastic Leviathan Dreadnought, as well as how I totally screwed up and botched the magnetization of the chest weapons, so hopefully you can learn from some of my mistakes and just do it correctly the first time. For the arms, I started off by building the shoulders normally, but immediately ran into a bit of a challenge. You see, there's this one piece on the back of the shoulder that is different for close combat and ranged weapon options, as the close combat option has a cable that runs from the fist up to the back of the shoulder here, where the ranged one doesn't. And while I have not yet seen the plastic ranged weapon sprue yet, my hunch is there's going to be a unique piece that does not contain this hole on the sprue, specifically, as this one piece here came on the close combat weapon sprue. After messing around a bit with how to magnetize this and the accompanying cable, I realized it would be a bit too fiddly for me to magnetize this bit and just glued it on and figured that when using ranged weapons, it'd be an empty ball socket that no one would really notice. The next decision I had to make was where to put my magnets, as you need to put them here in the connection between the elbow and the shoulder, or here in the elbow itself. I ultimately decided to put them into the elbow, as there's already a void in the elbow piece for a 6x1 magnet to fit perfectly. Well, actually, I didn't have any 6x1mm magnets, I only had a 5x1mm magnet, so I used those instead. But anyway, you can use either one. I started off the arm magnetization process by clipping these pieces off the sprue and then super gluing the 5x1mm magnet into the divot hole here. Luckily, the polarity doesn't really matter for the first magnet I placed, but it will for the second. So in order to ensure that I lined them up correctly, I stacked up a few of my 5x1 magnets on the already seated magnet and then glued the last magnet into the opposite elbow joint. I use this stack magnet technique a lot, as I find it's a lot easier than trying to get a signal magnet seated into a hole with the correct polarity using either my fingers or some kind of metallic tool. The only thing you need to look out for here is that you only glue a single magnet down. It's really easy to get a little bit of super glue onto the second magnet in the stack. Also, as tempting as it might be, do not glue these two elbow pieces together yet, as the next step will be far easier with them separated. Next, I need to get my magnets into these forearm pieces, and once again I found it was best to leave them separated to start with. Pretty much all I did though was took a 3mm drill bit and drilled a hole through them that most closely lined up with the magnets already placed in the elbow previously. Also, if I was actually prepared for this video, I would have just dropped a 3x1mm magnet into this hole and called it a day. But because Amniotically Tanked is a real fly-by-night operation, I only had 4x1 and 5x1 magnets available to me. So I had to take my hobby knife and carve out a hole for a 4x1mm magnet to fit into. Once again, it's critically important to ensure the polarity is correctly lined up here, and to do so, I actually drop my magnet onto the one already in the elbow socket, place my forearm bit over top of that, carving away any more plastic if needed, and then I actually super glue the magnet on the back into the forearm bit here, and then quickly remove it away from the elbow so that any possible super glue doesn't seep down and glue the elbow piece to this forearm. I also want to stress at this point the importance of making sure that your elbow and forearm bits are lined up correctly, as it's pretty easy to get them turned around and your magnets pointing the wrong way. The way I make sure to get this correct is that this armored piece in the elbow goes towards the back of the model, and the thinner part of the forearm should be pointing up like this. This resulting bond between the forearm bit and magnet is not super strong, but the polarity is correct, and so all I had to do was add a little bit of green stuff to this void to provide some additional strength. I then did the exact same thing on the other side of the forearm, and finally glue everything together. The rest of the arm at this point goes together pretty much exactly as described in the instructions. The only other thing you need to be careful for when magnetizing is you only glue the bottom half of this cable into the arm and not into the shoulder. Otherwise, the arm will actually be glued onto the model, and even though you magnetized it, it would not be able to come off. Also, this probably goes without saying, but when gluing this elbow piece here, make sure you only glue it onto the actual elbow piece on the magnetized forearm bit and not on the elbow joint itself. For the second arm, I did pretty much the exact same thing as the first, with the only exception being that I checked the polarity of the second arm against the first one. This was to ensure that the magnets had the same polarity on both sets of arm, and while it really doesn't matter for the close combat arms, as the hose will prevent them from being used on both sides of the model, the ranged weapon arms shouldn't have this problem in the new plastic kit, so I wanted to ensure that I could swap out my ranged weapon for either one of the two arms to have maximum flexibility. All I really did though was use a completed arm section from the other side and use this as a template to get their magnets correct in the elbow joint. And from there just followed the same steps again by drilling out the forearm bit and adding some 4x1 magnets into it before building the rest of the arm normally. I wanted to give this Leviathan a stormcannon as well, and since I already had one left over from a previous project, I decided to magnetize it too. To do this, all I really had to do was build the stormcannon as normal, and drill out a single hole through the center of this resin piece here to insert my 4x1 magnets. Again though, because I only had a 3mm drill bit, I had to expand out the hole a little bit with my hobby knife, but eventually a stack of 4 of these magnets fit snugly into this hole I drilled. After that, it was really only a matter of ensuring that the polarity was correctly lined up with the existing elbow pieces, gluing the magnets in, and I had a magnetized stormcannon ready to go. Moving on to the chest weapons, I'll just flat out admit that I'm an idiot and messed these up. You see, there are these holes already in the torso and weapons that were literally designed to accept 3x1mm magnets and allow for easy magnetization. I did not actually notice these though, so I drilled some 2mm holes in the top of the weapons and in the torso, and used some 2x1mm magnets to magnetize these pieces. This of course is way more work than just using the already existing holes, and I would not do this again. I do have to wonder though, why the designers of the kit put magnet holes on these weapons, but did not include any way to easily magnetize the weapon arms. I mean, the designers clearly know that magnets exist, but I'm curious how the call was made to not give people an easy way to magnetize the arms. Without getting too deep into conspiracy theories though, I hope you found this short video helpful. I need this model for my Iron Warrior army, so I was working on it anyways, but I think I'm going to do more of these magnetization videos in the future if there's positive reaction to this one. So yeah, click some buttons, do some stuff, all of the things that all the YouTubers say as far as subscribing, liking, commenting, throwing your phone into the ocean, and other small acts of defiance against our technocratic overlords. You know, the basic stuff that gives me a dopamine hit and helps you contribute to the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and hobby on.